What is a creepy fact about the human body? Your intestines know what shape they're supposed to be in and can move themselves, which means gut surgeons can just stuff them back into you when they're done, and they'll sort themselves out. When you get laser tattoo removal, the ink doesn't disappear, you pee it out. Your body's immune system breaks down the pigments of ink, and it flows in your bloodstream, gets processed through your kidneys, then you pee out the ink. A dead body will often move as it's being cremated. Muscles contract as they cook. After all, sometimes this means a body will sit up in the crematory machine. I know someone who worked in a morgue. One of their first experiences was going into a dark room to sort something out, and a body on a table sat up, groaned and farted, then laid back down. Hey, my husband does that and he's alive. Nice to know he won't change much after death. We don't just have one anal sphincter. When poo comes along it passes another inner sphincter, which isn't under voluntary control, meaning you can do oh with your outer sphincter, but not the inner one. You tried. That's okay. Sensory cells can detect whether you're about to pass gas or solid. From toddler age on, you can decide to go or not to go if the time isn't right. For example, at a friend's house or no toilet nearby, the inner sphincter can push the poo back and store it there for later. That's why sometimes if you need to do a number 2 but don't go, the urge goes away after about 20 minutes later. But seriously, go if you can. Constipation risk. Gas can't be pushed back so easily, so we sometimes toot by accident when moving or engaging the core. Now what about liquid? It doesn't seem to know liquid, so we play Russian roulette. Credit, Julia Enders, edit, typo, and obviously, Russian roulette was there and I missed it, which is a more solid option. Your tongue has incredible tactile capabilities, so much so that if you look at any object, you can vividly imagine what it would feel like to lick it. Go ahead, look at the wall, your shirt, your shoe, the tongue knows. The intestines are covered by a double fleece of peritoneum. See it like a blanket. When your intestines get damaged for whatever reason, this blanket starts moving out of itself and crawling upwards towards the place which is the injury. It will stay there until the injury is recovered, and then move on again. Maybe not the most creepy fact, but definitely interesting in my opinion. Our brain filters out a lot of what we see, along with just straight making shit up, based on extrapolation. Proprioception always amazed me. That extrapolation allows your brain to estimate distances automatically and know the positioning of your arms and legs at all times. You can close your eyes and touch your nose with your finger without much thought involved. If a stroke knocks out that part of your brain, you have dysmetria, where you have a lot of difficulty subconsciously measuring distances. Allegedly, your immune system has no clue your eyes exist. If active tomorrow, if your immune system found out about your eyes, it would treat them as an external threat. Therefore try and neutralize your eyeballs, leaving you blind. True, eyes are so-called immune privilege sites. Severe trauma to the eye could potentially expose the immune system to antigens of the eye. That's when things can go dark. Bodies will move as they're coming out of rigor. I've been bumped by a few. I'm a coroner. Bodies can also make sounds as the remaining air gas leaves. 2 AM in the morgue and I thought I was in COD zombies. Good to know. I work in the ICU and sometimes patients die and we keep them in a room until they are transported to pathology. If they moved, I would scream. Human beings are a cesspool of bacteria, and when you die your body eats itself from the inside out. More bacteria than human cells in our bodies. I might also add that billions of bacteriophages, viruses, feed on the bacteria in your gut. It's a whole ecosystem in your gut. The pain you feel from a sunburn is your skin cells effectively killing themselves before they mutate into cancer. Nah, F that. I'm not going outside anymore. As a skin cancer survivor, good call. As my dermatologist says, I wish we stop calling it sunburn and call it radiation burns instead. Folks might take more precautions. You can become allergic to yourself. I am allergic to my own cum. I once had habit of cum on my stomach and it became red and itchy. You've got a nut allergy. The liver can grow parts of itself back If you get a splinter or foreign object stuck in your skin, you can hold a flashlight against your skin and shine the light through your flesh, and the foreign object will be a dark spot. Light actually passes through our flesh quite well. Also, if you shine a bright enough light into your mouth, you can see the light in your own eyes. Edit. I'm really glad that so many people have gotten out their flashlights and had some fun with them. Never stop exploring and being curious and trying to discover new things. The world is amazing and has so much crazy stuff to uncover. You'll keep having fun now, and thank you everyone for all the wonderful replies and absolutely making my day. There is an urban myth that your fingernails continue to grow after death, which is supposed to explain why dead bodies often appear to have long nails. The truth is that the soft tissues in the fingers and hands tend to contract as they lose moisture, leading to the appearance of growing nails. Same reason people believed in vampires. The gums would retract, making it appear that the corpse had grown long teeth. It was thought the corpse was possessed by an evil spirit, which would feed on the blood of the living. And bingo, vampires enter mythology. Also, the belly would expand from gases, and red liquid would seep out of the mouth. Food that was consumed can sometimes take up to 5 days to fully pass through your intestines into your colon. So when people say that you are full of shit, they ain't lying. Yep, we can store up to 5 kilos of shit at any given time. I definitely know some assholes that store way more than that. If you wear a glass which vertically inverts your vision long enough, your brain will correct it and you'll see things normal. But when you take those glasses off, everything will look upside down again, until brain recalibrates again. The front of your tongue is curious, constantly patrolling, and autonomous. It chases the dentist around your mouth and you aren't even aware of it. So embarrassing and weird creepy. Eater. There are few dentists in here, and this is my favorite comment. In dental school, I learned this fact when practicing taking impressions on each other. My buddy's tongue kept licking my finger. I asked him to quit licking me, and he was like, I can't help it. And then we switched places and my tongue wouldn't leave him alone. And for those of you that don't think your tongue does this, some of you are right, but the majority of you just think your tongue is behaving. But it is all over the place without you even knowing. One thing that spun me out was hearing about fallopian tubes after a friend went through emergency surgery. Fallopian tubes are mobile and active parts of your reproductive tract. When one tube isn't there, or is broken, the other tube can actually move over to the opposite ovary and pick up an available egg. It's like DoorDash. The brain will always usually try to ensure its survival. If knocking you out does so, then you will faint for the safety of the brain. I remember finding this once but I don't remember clearly. Your brain does a slightly similar thing with sleep exhaustion too. When it gets to such a severe point that things start breaking down, the brain will basically say, not on my watch, and put you into a micro sleep. We've probably all had micro sleeps before when we're overly tired, but the further you slip into sleep deprivation, the more dramatic they get. Your brain will trigger them more and more out of necessity, and you'll find it harder and harder to get out of them. When my sleep disorder was at its worst, I would find myself completely unable to open my eyes after my eyelids were dragged shut by sleepiness. The more I forced them open, the further I went into hypnagogic hallucinations. There'd be pink animals floating across the lecture hall. Sounds would become distant echoes, and everything would rapidly become a rainbow swirl of tunnel vision. My next recollection would be that time had jumped 3 minutes, as I'd fallen unconscious on my desk. After each micro sleep, the next would be harder to snap out of, because my brain needed, to wrestle me down and hold me there. On bad days like that, I'd be unable to stop walking in the street, because standing still would trigger microsleeps, and I'd collapsed once or twice before. Same goes for the bus, absolutely no sitting, because I'd wake up at the terminal stop. I'd essentially had between 5 and 10 actual restful sleeps out of the whole 365 days. The other days could be a combination of 1 to 4 hours of effective sleep. Thankfully my disorder is now about 75% treated. People keep saying your brain in these comments. I think one of the creepiest things is that you are the brain, and the brain is you. But for some reason, we brains really don't like to acknowledge this. The brain contains so much information about itself or some of our bodily needs that it decides to keep from us, well, itself. In response, the brain can undergo analysis to theorize how itself works. In other words, the brain might very well know how itself works, it just keeps that information from itself, but it has the curiosity to not only ask how itself works, but for some people a drive to discover how it all functions. Incident number 1. I had a bad enough broken bone when I was 9 that it almost killed me. Apparently the marrow that makes blood can't exist in your bloodstream. Fun fact, lol. Incident number 2. My orthopedic surgeon and my neurologist still don't have a good explanation as to how I have full range of motion in my legs, i.e., the ability to walk, run even. I've never seen a super smart guy like my neurologist just go. I don't really know. After I had broken my back and had nerve damage and partial paralysis in both legs, my neurologist says that sometimes cerebrospinal fluid can act as a bridge for major nerve damage, so maybe that. Otherwise, he wrote some published stuff about it that was more question than answer. Haha. All I know is that when I get x-rays done or switch doctors, the response is, "How did you walk in here?" It visibly unsettles them, like I'm playing a prank and my wheelchair is hidden somewhere. Lol. I don't really care, if I'm being honest. It hurts a lot sometimes, and people get really weird sometimes when I remind them that I can't do some things, but shrugs. I can walk, so it doesn't matter much to me. Long story short, sometimes your body can do some weird and creepy shit that even the professionals go about. Lol. Human skin is overlaid with a pattern called Blaschko's lines, stripes covering the body from head to toe. The stripes run up and down your arms and legs and hug your torso. They wrap around the back of your head like a hood, and across your face. You just can't see them. I just had to look these up, and it's super cool. Are you going to leave out the coolest part? Go. You actually can see these lines, but only under a UV light. You can see them on some people with certain skin conditions or, apparently, chimerism. And they also come in other patterns. This is wild, because I've had this random off-color patch of skin on my right boob for as long as I can remember. I wonder if it's Blaschko's lines, or just more weird skin shit. Viewed from a medical standpoint, the inside of your gastrointestinal tract is technically the outside of your body, making you a meat donut. Don't you mean a topological perspective? I don't think a doctor would consider me a meat donut, but a topologist wouldn't be able to differentiate me from a coffee mug. You can grow tumors with hair, teeth, and eyes, but no heart or brain. I've had 2 of those. The one I had removed when I was 18 was full of different bits of bone and hair and teeth, and when it grew back at 29 it was half hair, half sebum. Why? Why would you put that emoji in that comment? The tumor wrote this. 3 to 4 inches of the penis is inside the body. When you are thrusting, you are also thrusting yourself. I can't believe there's more inside than outside. There's countless ways it can just go wrong. Just out of effing nowhere. Completely unexpectedly, something can become F up in a way which is anything from life-alteringly debilitating to lethal. I once barely reached out to grab a spoon, and couldn't move my back for 3 days. Yes, hitting 30, I think is the medical term. Every injury is a forever injury. How limited our minds are, and ant will never understand that being in my room when I'm vacuuming is a bad idea, but the knowledge exists. I'm sure there's a buttload of information about the universe staring right at us, but we'll never understand it because of our stupid human brains. I always view it as a sort of frame. A fish in a tank has a specific frame it can live in, the tank itself, as well as things it can, technically, perceive beyond that. The room the tank is in, for example. Anything beyond that is absolutely outside the fish's knowledge. For example, it has absolutely no chance of knowing my kitchen exists. Generally speaking, I do believe humans have a better chance of, maybe not breaking, but adjusting or widening that frame. But it'd be ridiculous to think we'd be able to know and perceive everything there is. This also applies to our own bodies. As a specific frame we can do specific things with. While I can have a general idea of what it's like to be you, I'll never fully know. That and the fact everyone does the things they do for a reason really helps me in accepting different viewpoints, behaviors and other things. You could be a second away from dying unexpectedly from no outside force and have zero indication it is about to happen. I am 60 and recently had a full cardio workup, nuclear stress test, calcium CAT scan and echocardiogram. The cardiologist was happy with the results. No apparent cardiovascular disease. However, his last words were kind of chilling. Just because everything looks good does not mean you could not die of an unexpected cardiac event. Basically, people die even if they appear healthy. Our minds can be tricked, and our minds can trick us. Some people sleep with their eyes open. Our memories are fallible. If you remember something from 10+ years ago, the events in your mind are likely changed. You might remember a couple things properly, but our memories are almost never 100% accurate. On top of that, we usually don't remember the unimportant stuff. Our dreams are a product of our subconscious, from any memory, especially recent ones. Edit. Thank you for the upvotes. There was a hot air balloon photo experiment. Basically they showed a bunch of people, false childhood photos of them in an air balloon. About half of them suddenly remembered being on an air balloon, when they actually never did before. It demonstrated how easily people's memory can be manipulated, and how faulty memories can be. A female baby is born with all the eggs she will ever have. The egg cell that made you was temporarily inside your grandmother before your mother was born. Your brain keeps you from feeling your organs. Edit. Do I stand corrected? Your brain can also be a bastard and get confused, and you get what's called referred pain. Pancreatic pain can present in either flank or the back. Heart attacks can present as jaw or shoulder pain. I had a kidney stone that presented as the worst testicle pain in my life. I immediately thought torsion. Morphine and fentanyl didn't even touch it. Toradol, an NSAID like ibuprofen, turned the pain off like switch. That's when they decided to check for a kidney stone. Heard a story of this guy who got an axe or something to his head. Destroyed most of his brain, except the part that processes routines. He got up from the bed beside his dead wife, got dressed, started brushing his teeth, what was left of them, casually checked the mirror and wiped his skin of some blood with tissue, walked round the house and collected newspaper from the doorstep. Eventually he just collapsed. He was like a zombie, unaware of anything, but for his routine really freaky. Sometimes there are just random extra muscles. You can go your entire life without even knowing it. I've worked as a mortician and Bummies would tell me about some cases like this. Also, just random tumors, even when the individual had never been diagnosed. Lastly, skin sounds like saran wrap when peeled from the body. Humans are bioluminescent. We literally glow. The visible light that emits from our bodies are 1000 times less intense than the levels which our eyes are sensitive to. We must look absolutely effing terrifying to animals that can see a wider range of color and light. We ate our own hair while inside the womb. Babies eat the lanugo, called as the foetus hair, that they shed while in the womb, and it builds up within them to form the substance that makes up their first poop, known as meconium. There's a nerve that has the nerve of not knowing what its purpose is, specifically the ulnar nerve, aka the funny bone, rest taken from Tumblr post. The reason it feels so weird to hit it is that it's not designed to deliver pain signals. So when you hit it, it just wigs out and sends garbage signals to the brain, and the brain is just like, dude ulnar, what the hell is this garbage? You're supposed to curl a finger and a half, and move some muscles in the forearm. Why are you sending me this crap? How am I supposed to make this into sensory output? And the ulnar nerve is just like, dude, brain, what the hell is going on? And the brain goes, idiot, fine, you're on fire, freezing and being electrocuted, happy? And the ulnar goes, holy crap brain, I'm on fire, freezing and being electrocuted, what am I going to do? And the brain says, you're an idiot ulnar, a damn idiot. The placebo effect is one of the biggest superpowers of the human body, showing how strong and weak it is at the same time, and how easy it is to trick any mind. Modern day science can't still fully understand it. Brain aneurysm. About 1 to 2% of the world population will go through an aneurysm during their lifetime, and a small portion of these people will die from a rupture. The worst part? It has no boundaries. Literally anyone can get one, at any time, and just die. Our main organs, minus skin, are mostly protected by muscle walls and our rib cage, and yet we can survive with one of any of the paired organs. Strangely though, our spinal cord is extremely delicate and fragile and has almost no protection at all. The muscles we build on the back to protect it do not cover it, but rather cushion it from the sides and provide structural support. You could be very weak with almost no muscle mass and be fine after injury to the front of your torso. You could be the strongest person in the world and a minor injury to your back can still render you completely paralyzed. If you have severe mental illness like anxiety and depression, you feel like there's an entire universe within your brain. The amount of thoughts, pain, feelings, sensations, imaginations and perceptions about everything, and its complexity, is just too much to handle. You literally feel like time has stopped and are living in an alternate reality. What I'm trying to say is, when you are mentally ill, you have no control over what your brain is feeding your mind. Already considering that the brain has high affinity towards negativity, thoughts, pain, etc., your brain will turn against you. Mental illness is no joke. Please take care.